right, so this is going to be another movie review. This one's called Midnight Phantom, 1973? No, 1935. Sorry. Reliable Pictures Corporation. Bernard B. Ray presents Midnight Phantom with Reginald Denny from Bulldog Drammen series, distributed by Reliable Pictures Corporation. Not a great looking movie poster, but okay. Midnight Phantom is a 1935 U.S. film directed by Bernard B. Ray. Production company Reliable Pictures, distributed by Reliable Pictures. Release date November 27, 1935. Running time 63 minutes. Country English. Country United States. Language English. Excuse me. I'm having a rough time here with this movie review. Nobody's in the chat room. Nobody has anything to say. Adrian threatened to move on to somebody else's channel. I have no idea who this person is or how to access his channel or anything, but I'm glad Adrian found somebody else. Police Chief James A. Sullivan is in his office berating several people under his command who he feels are doing a less than top-notch job. His waiting room is full of other characters waiting their turn to go in and receive their own reprimand. His secretary, Kathleen Ryan, sends them in one by one, except when Lieutenant Dan Burke arrives. He goes in unannounced because he's the chief's daughter's boyfriend, and he has come to ask the chief's blessing for their engagement. The chief mentions that there was another suitor, Professor David Graham, a noted criminologist, but the chief is glad his daughter, Claudia, chose Dan. Not for long. The scolding of other station employees and officers continues, and all of them leave the office in a very bad mood with visible ill will towards the chief. Yeah, that's a good way to encourage employee morale at the police station. Just tell everybody they're doing a lousy job and they're being reassigned. There is a car chase involving criminals and the police. In the shootout, all the criminals die, but one of them turns out to be Dan's brother, who apologizes to his other brother before he dies. He's trying to make excuses, like he said, oh, they told me that there wouldn't be any shooting. And, oh, I couldn't find a job because it's the Great Depression. Chief Sullivan is now opposed to Dan's marriage to Claudia, mostly because Dan hadn't disclosed to her that the robber shot and killed was his younger brother. Dan vows to marry Claudia in spite of his refusal. So Professor David Graham, played by the aforementioned Reginald Denny, tells Claudia that he probably Dan probably thought that nobody would notice that they were related or something, and he could get away with not telling his future father-in-law because, Dan, probably thought that nobody would notice that they were related or something, and he could get away with not telling his future father-in-law because, Dan, probably thought that nobody would notice that they were related or something, and he could get away with not telling his future father-in-law because, Dan, probably thought that nobody would notice that they were related or something, and he could get away with not telling his future father-in-law because, he wouldn't stand for it if he announced it before the newspaper figured it out, I guess. Okay. A demonstration is arranged in which Professor Graham demonstrates his knowledge of criminal traits and characteristics. However, when the demonstration is over, the chief, who is sitting in the front row, is found to be dead, possibly by a poison dart. Nobody is allowed to leave the room, and a few minutes later, another murder occurs. Dan approaches Professor Graham, and the lights go out. When they are turned back on, Dan is on the floor dead. Professor Graham establishes that the killer was Dan, and his motive was the chief's refusal to allow the wedding to proceed. Okay, that makes sense. But then we get a plot twist ending, which doesn't make sense. Dan, who was just pretending to be dead, gets up, and he points a gun at Professor Graham, proving it was he who murdered the chief, not Dan. Graham confesses, and he is arrested. Dan and Claudia go out on a picnic, and she is sad about the recent events, especially about the fact that Graham had been executed for his crime. Oh, she's anti-death penalty. Okay, cool. This movie has its ups and downs. I'm giving it 3 out of 5 stars. I thought it was all right. Not a bad little crime movie, kind of low budget, and I don't know. It was okay. Wasn't fantastic. It's a somewhat low 4.5 out of 10. Not too terribly bad. On IMDb, 230 ratings. Somewhat obscure movie, but not as obscure as I'd liked it to be. If I go farther down my list, we've got movies with 0 ratings, movies with less than 50 ratings. Those are the movies that we want to see. All right. Midnight Phantom, 1935, 1 hour, 3 minutes, 4.5 out of 10, 230 ratings. A newly hired police chief vows to clean up a notoriously corrupt police department. So you've got that police corruption going, and you got the whodunit mystery at the end. And Reginald Denny says something interesting about women committing crimes. I think he's anti-woman, or he thinks women are inferior. All right. A newly hired police chief vows to clean up a notoriously corrupt police department. When he is murdered, investigators find that there is no shortage of suspects, most of them being fellow cops. When the person you least suspect is the actual murderer, I should say. This film is one of over 200 titles in the list of independent feature films made available for television presentation by Advanced Television Pictures, announced in Motion Picture Herald, April 4th, 1942. At this time, television broadcasting was in its infancy. Almost totally curtailed by the advent of World War II. And it would not continue to develop until 1945 to 1946 because of poor documentation. Feature films were often not identified by title in conventional sources. No record has yet been found of its initial television broadcast. Its earliest documented telecast was Wednesday, December 14th, 1949, on WPIX in New York City. Several instances of the camera car truck shadow are visible in the bandit chase scenes. Professor David Graham is quoted as saying, "Sit down, Kathleen. Your mother didn't do this. Women are not expert enough to do a job of that kind. They kill rather crudely." That's the quotation that I was telling you about. The comment that women kill rather crudely. I don't know where he gets this stuff. All right. Alternate language version of El Crimen de Medianoche, 1936. All right. Here we go. Here's a review by Chase Witherspoon, dated July 20th, 2012 on IMDb. Giving it a much lower rating, a 1 out of 10. I'm giving this a 6 out of 10. The title of this review on IMDb is called Somewhere in This 60-Minute Yarn, There's a 10-Minute Film. Dreary tale of nothing that centers around a city police precinct in which the cranky Farley becomes the target of an apparently disgruntled regional captain, while his daughter Dell frets about her imminent marriage to precinct hotshots Hughes, whose younger brother was exposed to be a criminal, tainting both his position in the force and with his future wife and in-law. Reginald Denny co-stars as the charismatic cigar-making professor who can diagnose a criminal from just a lineup, a performance he duly displays for the precinct at midnight, leading to the anticlimactic 5-minute whodunit. The final 5 minutes treats the audience to a pointless epilogue involving a picnic, something to which you can look forward. I have to admit, the picnic was a nice touch. They're having a picnic after 2 murders. As for the first 50 minutes, there's very little material on which to comment, just Farley berating his captains for their ineptitude and remonstrating with Hughes over the shame his criminal family name will bring only onto his daughter. It's an aimless soap opera. Still not too sure why Denny appears in this film, given his relative stature, though his performance is assured, where those of his peers in this film leave more than a little to be desired. 2 obvious line fluffs and frequent jump cuts, suggesting a very amateurish production is in the making, even by mid-30s poverty row standards. The Midnight Phantom is a late-night yarn. I guess this person has never seen Jailbait. On this channel, we're letting those low production values slide big time. All right. I don't have much to say about Midnight Phantom, other than it's very short. It's a poverty row mystery film, and that's about all I can say. I think I've gone through enough with that. All right. So next up is Sea of Love, 1989. I don't know if I can find a free version of it on Tubi or YouTube, but or Amazon Prime. But I probably won't get around to finishing that until Monday night. And then I've got The Lighthouse, 2019, and Exiled to Shanghai, 1937. So those are the next 3. I did 3 reviews in one day. Adrian says that Brian Uncle Fester, whoever that is more interesting these days with the content. So good luck with that, Adrian. I just posted 3 reviews and you're nowhere to be found. All right. Can't please everybody. Laters.